I looked round and saw the beasts surrounded by men bearing carbines and machetes. None of them spoke. We entered a street made of one-story mud and thatch houses. There were cooking pots and bits of furniture in the drain that ran down the middle of the street. We had to pick our way through clothes and debris on the packed earth. At the end of the street was a walled garden about 10 yards by 10 yards. On 3 sides the walls were too high to see over. They were thickly covered by creepers from which bright pink blossoms sprouted. The 4th wall was lower, and beyond it I could see fields. 8 human figures lay on the earth along one wall. At first I thought they were sacks of maize. They had been bound hand and foot. Each corpse faced skyward. The commander moved towards the bodies and we followed, putting our hands and then our shirts over our faces to fend off the smell. I looked down at the bodies, first the feet, and then the cotton trousers and shirts, and finally the faces. Some had pus and other viscous substances coming out of their mouths. Some had punctures in their heads. Others had punctures in their chests. "I want you to photograph them," the commander said. My father was silent. "Why?" I asked. I did not consider if it was prudent to speak. I was simply baffled. "Because I want people to understand what happens to criminals in Cuba." We didn't know which side the dead had been on and which side the living. My father's voice didn't waver when he said, "Juan, the Kessler." My father was not a cold-blooded man, but neither was he without common sense. Perhaps if they had ordered us to bury the bodies or perform some such task, we would have complied less easily. But making photographs offered the slight prospect of safe passage. We set to work. The Kessler was our tallest tripod, equipped with a hinge and screw that could hold the camera at a perpendicular angle. This way, a photograph of the victims could be taken from above. It required the camera operator to stand on ladders. "That wall has timber halfway up," my father said. The wall, adjacent to where the bodies lay, had a trellis attached to wooden beams that had been placed among the bricks. The beams offered a makeshift platform on which my father could balance and operate the camera. Our horses had been brought to the edge of the garden. I set up the tripod, and my father brought the Eclipse, our standard portrait camera. The dead were barefoot. 3 had beards, all had moustaches, except for the boy at the end, who looked about 14. The oldest was perhaps 60. I guessed that the figure next to the boy, a middle-aged man with cropped grey hair, had been the leader. I might have been quite wrong. Yet this group in death appeared to have a kind of hierarchy. One face looked at the blue sky with authority, and that was the grey-haired man next to the boy. I wondered if they were father and son. And then I became angry, for the silence around us was the silence of eternity, and none of these figures would ever explain or protest or teach or persuade or rob or serve or farm or mend again. My father and I made a portrait of something evil. And we did this with all the skill and attention to detail that was part of our profession. They took us to one of the houses, and we developed the plates there. 3 images altogether. "What are you going to do with these?" I asked the commander, who arrived as the photographs were drying. I asked him because I wanted to hear his voice. I thought I would be able to tell from his voice if they intended to kill us. "We'll make sure that people see them," he said.